Can I ask you about a couple of scenes, because our time's limited?
Mm.
The scene where things start to go wrong between you and your husband in the film is after you smoke pot, and it's Christiana has spoken to me a lot about this, and her interpretation is that this careless talk threatens the marriage. It's actually the pot has taken you the wrong way. It could have taken you one way, sexy and happy. It took you the other way.
Well, that's what I think's so honest about that, is that Bill thinks, okay, we're going to have sex now. He's all settling in for the night, and he says one thing. It happens to be the wrong thing, and it triggers a number of reactions from me, which is so real. I mean, this happens to all of us in our relationships, or, you know, in our marriages at different times, where and you see Bill sort of reeling from it. I think it's a very funny scene. I love Stanley's humor, so, and it really comes across in that scene, and then he takes it into that dangerous territory of where I am just spewing things, saying things that I have held back for so long, that just sort of happened to come out at this particular time on this particular night. And I find that fascinating, but so real.
Do you think that character you were playing had the self-awareness to know that she was threatening everything?
No way. No, but I think subconsciously she wanted something more from her husband. She loves him. She still loves him. She wants to be with him, but she's searching for something more. We debated this scene a lot, Stanley and I, and he would say to me, Nicole, you should be a lawyer, because I would debate each issue of the scene and each issue of Alice's arguments, and sometimes I'd find flaws in her argument, and I would say, but hold on, no, we've got to fix this because I wanted to be right, you know? And he said, the key thing here is, Nicole, you're stoned. There is no rational, it's not even a rational argument. You're not standing up in the court of law and having to be, everything is perfect. He said, when people argue, they say the most ridiculous things. At other times, they say the most profound things. At times, they're right on course with their line of argument, and other times they veer off and sound ridiculous. And that's what I love about the argument, is that it is completely irrational at times. And that's what makes it funny as well. And then when she's, my favourite moment is when I would just start to laugh. I just loved doing that, where I just break down laughing, which then segues into this whole story about this man that I fantasized about.
There are two acting moments I must ask you about. One is where you're asleep and you're laughing. I mean, they're both extraordinary acting moments. I'd like you to help us understand how you would, apart from your natural talent, achieved this with Stanley's help. That laughter when you're asleep seemed to be an absolutely genuine laugh of pleasure, which is interrupted and then becomes a nightmare. What was it that you'd agreed that you were laughing at that moment?
I mean, a lot of stuff that Stanley didn't like you talking about, you know, the things. It was the imagery of the dream. It was being lost completely in the imagery of the dream. And he was very particular about the type of laugh. And I remember we did quite a lot of takes just on the beginning. He would cut it early if he didn't feel that it was the perfect sound that he wanted to hear at that time.
It was a kind of out of controlled laugh.
Yeah, it's a weird laugh. I know. I find it quite weird when I watch it, because I've only seen the movie twice to date, but I find it quite disturbing, and I find the whole film like that. It's very hard for me to sit down and watch it.
After he says, "I'll tell you everything," there's a cut to you. You've been crying for hours. You're smoking. How did you achieve that?
I cried for hours.
I've never seen a transformation like that, and so brilliantly held.
Yeah, I mean, Stanley, I mean, that was the thing, time. We didn't have to worry about time. So to prepare for that, I just went and cried. When I talk to Stanley and my face I look at that and I go, oh my gosh, I look so ravaged. But I love that I look ravaged because, you know, a lot of times you're kind of rushing and you can't quite, we don't have time, come on, just hurry up. He gave me the time.
What was your...
And I just...
I'm sorry to interrupt you because we're under a great time pressure, and I'd love to talk to you for half an hour. It'd be fascinating. What was your immediate reaction when you heard that he died?
Shock, and I didn't believe it. And I didn't want to believe it because it just seemed wrong. Didn't seem like the right time. He seemed to have too many other things to do and say. And it's still very, sorry.
I'll move from that just for a second. You deliberately spent a lot of... I'm sorry to bring that on
No,
you.
it's all right.
You spent a lot of time with him deliberately.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
Yeah.
Do you want a hanky?
It's fine.
And you learnt a lot. And I have the feeling that he became a sort of a father figure for you, professionally speaking, and probably in a sense personally as well. What did you learn from him? What could you pass on to... That time that you spent with him now must seem enormously valuable to you. What did it mean to you, that time?
I think it changed the way I view films, the way I view filmmaking. It gave me a belief in the purity of filmmaking, in the art form of making a film, and that however long it takes, whatever you have to go through, you're making a film, and it's extraordinary and wonderful. And a lot of the times now, I think, people view films in a very business way. We have a product, we've got to get it out for summer, we've got to make the film, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And filmmaking isn't that. It's about getting lost in that world, and it's exquisite when it happens.
What you're saying actually is that what I've always believed, and most of us have, that film is an art at its highest level.
Yeah, and that a lot of the times now you can really question that, and particularly as an actor you can be corrupted, I think, even as a director. But it's, I mean, Stanley Kubrick was someone that dedicated his life to making films, and he believed in that art form in such a pure way, and he lived films, he loved films. And a lot of the time you can say, oh, that's pretentious, or oh, well, you know, there's so many other more important things in the world, and yes, there is, but the great storytellers of our past and are also, and of now, are so important to our future, and I think Stanley gave me a belief in that again. He was one of the great storytellers of all time, and he used film as his medium to do that, and it was beautiful.